So the Trump administration says that companies are already shifting and diversifying their supply chains in response to tariffs, including by onshoring production to the United States. How much of that do you know to be true?
A lot of it is in the high tech area and strategic industries where the administration has placed a high emphasis on trying to diversify its supply chains and not be so dependent. The rare earth controversy that we've seen recently is a great example of where the U.S. really wants to create its own supply chains, almost regardless of costs, because the it's so vital for making cars and vital parts of the economy, and especially for defense equipment and high tech electronic products. So in that case, the resupply is almost at any cost. And in other places where it may be cheaper to manufacture here now than before, is showing up in way of a lot of small businesses. I'm told that it's now profitable to manufacture bicycles in the United States, whereas it never was before. So again, these tariffs are slowly showing up, but of course, it's coming at a cost. A lot of small businesses have a business model that depends upon low cost inputs from abroad. In other words, a lot of small businesses here in Los Angeles and around the country are based upon importing stuff from China or Asia, relabeling it and selling it to consumers at a low cost. That line of business will suffer for sure, and a lot of those businesses will go out of business. But those who are adding value, that are manufacturing stuff, they're taking the inputs from China or Malaysia and adding value. In other words, redesigning it and changing it around and putting in domestic production. Those businesses are thriving because they have found a way of getting around the tariffs by producing in what are called free trade zones, where the imports come in and that the net tariff depends upon the product that's being sold. So if you sell out of the free trade zone with a lot of domestic content, the tariff content is much less.
So are you essentially saying that firms are adapting technologically and therefore lowering the costs in the long run?
Oh, not only technology, but they're adapting their own business models. The businesses, as I said, that just straight import from abroad and relabel and sell to consumers, those businesses are getting hurt by the tariffs because that business model is no longer profitable. But for those who are able to do more of their design work and their reprocessing here, those are the ones that are thriving.
So, William, what role will these tariffs play on the US budget deficit?
Well, Secretary Bessent has made it very clear that he's counting on tariff revenues to help lower the size of the federal deficit. Most estimates before the tariffs came in from the Congressional Budget Office is that the deficit will be well over 6% and on its way toward maybe even double digits of 10% of GDP. And what we found is that the revenues have been pretty substantial from these tariffs. And the latest congressional budget estimates has shown that the budget deficit for this year has declined from 6.2 or 6.3% of GDP down to below 6, which is closer to 5.9%. So that quarter point reduction as a share of GDP is really a substantial share. So well over $250 billion worth of tariff revenues. Now, of course, it comes at a cost. And there's a lot of controversy as to who's paying these tariffs. But as I said before, the Federal Reserve has estimated that the net impact of the tariffs on consumers is that they bear about a quarter of the burden. The S&P study shows that maybe it's a third, and the rest of it is borne by the importers and the exporters from the rest of the world. So that's a
Right.
great deal for the U.S. citizens.
Okay. William Lee, really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.